Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we will have a first experience of working with non-dry modeling clay, silicone molds and liquid plastic. I've got an idea about I will talk more in my next videos. This idea was inspired by plaster bas-reliefs on the walls. To implement the idea, I will need to create a 3D image on the flat surface. I use a non-dry modeling clay and hand roll a piece of it with a rolling pin on the table. I also prepared a cardboard. This is the flat shape where my future bas-relief will be created on. I put this cardboard on the clay and cut the sides off by the small plastic ruler. I carefully remove the excess of clay, trying not to damage the shape. So this way easy basic shape is ready for work. And now we should decide what exactly we are going to sculpt. I use Pinterest to find the inspiration. There are plenty of floral bas-reliefs that I'm in love with. After 10 minutes of scrolling, I found it awesome how roses look like on one of the images, and I want to try make similar flowers on my clay bas-relief. I use the laser embossing pen to slightly make a sketch on the clay. This non-dry modeling clay quickly softens from the heat of the hands. If the clay is too hard, you can also put it in the glass of hot water for a while. I start modeling from top right corner and then will move lower and to the left corner. As I'm left-handed, the risk of accidentally crushing the elements will be lower. First, I sculpt a small rosebud, press and wrap it a little on the base. Then, making leaves closer to the bud. And fix them securely on the basics of the bas-relief. And lightly rub the tip and base of the leaf over the clay piece. Intuitively put the pressing force on the clay element. Let's work on the next rose, that is bigger. Firstly, I attach a large petal on the base. This petal visually farthest from me. Next, I'm making a central part of the flower and I attach it to the first petal. I add more petals on the central part of the flower and securely fix it on the base. Detach the bas-relief from the table and check that flowers and leaves look good from different viewing angles. I add a bigger leaf onto the rose and continue creating new flowers and elements the same way as previous ones. It was difficult to take on this project because I've never tried to sculpt of non-dry clay before. When I took clay in my hands the first time, I even didn't know how to start and what exactly I should do. So decided to calm down and do everything slowly, step by step and flower by flower. Work with this clay was easier than I expected. The most important thing is to understand what you want to sculpt and have a reference picture in front of your eyes. Sculpting process, even on such a small piece, took me for about 2 hours, including all the experiments and failed moments. After attaching the last piece, I put a bas-relief in the refrigerator for half an hour. It's much easier to correct imperfections and smooth surfaces when clay is chipped. I use two-sided ball tool to smooth the surface of the clay, bigger ball for large surfaces and smaller one for tiny petals. At this moment, I realized that I made some mistakes while sculpting. First of all, some flower petals are made too high above the surface of the base. Also, I found out that a large number of cavities have formed, and they need to be filled with clay pieces, because when making silicone molds, the silicone will flow into these cavities and it will be impossible to pull the master model out of it. After bas-relief is done and all the cavities are filled, we can start to build a formwork container for the silicone mold. I used a soft cardboard and 2 layers of a non-dry molding clay to prevent silicone from spreading. It took me 1 hour and several attempts to create this form. I used silicone for molds from Polydeal. It's a Russian company. To weigh the components, I took ordinary kitchen scale. At first I mixed 100 grams of components, but later realized this was not enough and mixed another 100 grams of silicone. Since this is my first work with silicone, I was afraid to make a mistake, so I even mixed the components for 4 minutes, strictly according to the instructions. When I filled the formwork, I've got a lot of bubbles in the silicone, but fortunately they quickly disappeared. After 12 hours, I removed the clay and detached the mold from the table. Then I removed the cardboard and the clay from the inner part of the mold. At this point it was very easy, but pulling out the master model from silicone turned out to be more difficult. First of all, because the silicone has flowed over the model and it needs to be cut off. The second reason, when removing the clay from the silicone, I found a large number of silicone threads that was broke off when I was trying to pull the model out of silicone. I was a little upset when I noticed that there were pieces of clay in the silicone, but hopefully I pulled them out without any problems. And now it was necessary to clean the mold from excess of silicone. It's very convenient to cut the mold with scissors. It's important to cut off the wrong details so they don't affect the plastic casting in the future. I was cleaning this mold with scissors for about 30 minutes. When the silicone mold was ready, I really wanted to check what would the casting look like. I took liquid plastic from the same brand, Polydel, and mixed the components according to the instructions, then filled the mold and didn't notice that camera wasn't filming. So I can only show you the result. As you can see, there were some bubbles in the plastic, but fortunately they didn't affect the casting result at all. After 30 minutes, I decided to pull the casting out of mold. It pulls out very easily, but the plastic has not completely hardened yet, which is good. As long as it's flexible, it can be easily adjusted and even cut it with scissors. I cut the excess plastic from the base and sanded the tips of some petals because they were a bit sharp. As this is my first experience with silicone and plastic, I am totally satisfied with the result, even without cutting and sanding the casting piece. What do you think about it? Thank you for being with me during the whole process.